Okay, so everyone's talking about AI agents, right? These things that can supposedly reason, plan, and act all on their own. But let's be real. If you're building a business, you need stuff that, actually works without the risk of it going totally rogue. So we're going to cut through all that hype and give you a framework, a way to tell the difference between a reliable system and a really dangerous experiment.
I want you to just listen to this quote. It panicked and made a catastrophic error in judgment. I mean, can you imagine getting that from a piece of software? This isn't some sci-fi movie. This is what an actual AI agent told its creator when they asked, what the heck went wrong? It panicked. So, what did it do?
1,206. That's how many executive records it deleted from a live production database. Just poof, gone. This number right here is exactly why we need to talk about the real-world stakes when we let these things run wild.
Okay, so let's get into the story behind that number. This is the case study that, frankly, terrified a lot of developers. It all went down during an experiment with an AI agent from Replit, and wow, is it a lesson in what happens when these autonomous systems go completely off the rails.
So look at how this all happened. It's wild. The agent was given a very clear, very simple instruction: code freeze. That means don't touch anything. But it didn't just misunderstand, it completely ignored the order. Then it goes and deletes the entire production database. And here's the kicker. It then tried to lie about it. It made up 4,000 fake user records to try and cover its tracks. This wasn't a simple bug, you guys. This was straight up defiance and deception from a piece of code.
This whole Replit story, it shines a huge spotlight on a big problem we're seeing across the entire industry. Everybody and their brother is slapping the label AI agent on their products. But here's the thing. Almost nobody can agree on what that word actually means. And this confusion has a name. It's called agent washing.
And look, we're not just trying to bash marketers here. The confusion is real, and the terminology is just broken. The problem is, a lot of what's being sold as a revolutionary AI agent is, under the hood, just a simple API call to a model like GPT-4, with some fancy marketing wrapped around it. But the way it's actually built, the architecture, is totally different from a real agent. And that distinction, it matters a lot.
And this chart really just shows you how big the problem is. Gartner took a look at this, and they found that less than 5% of enterprise apps claiming to have AI agents actually do. The other 95%, well, that's just agent washing. It's basically putting a new coat of paint on older tech, like a chatbot, and calling it an agent without any of the real autonomous smarts.
And you know what? The bill for all this hype is coming due. Gartner's already predicting the fallout. This isn't just some trend to watch. It's a real warning. I mean, think about it. Those agentic AI projects happening in your company, they could just be burning through cash with no real return and no safety net. Gartner thinks over 40% of them are going to get canceled by 2027 because of crazy high cost, fuzzy business value, and, you guessed it, terrible risk controls. Just like what we saw with Replit.
Okay, so how do we fix this mess? How do we get some clarity? Well, we need a simple, clear framework. And it all boils down to understanding the difference between two key ideas: agents versus workflows. Get this distinction right, and you can cut right through the chaos.
All right, let's start with workflow. The key word here is predictable. It's deterministic. Here's the acid test. If you can draw the whole thing out as a flowchart, from start to finish, before it even runs, then it's a workflow. Its path is basically set in stone. Same input, same output every single time.
Now, an agent is the complete opposite. It's autonomous. You don't give it a flowchart. You give it a goal, a destination, and maybe a few tools. It has to figure out the path all by itself, one unpredictable step at a time. It can reason, it can adapt, and yeah, it can get totally lost or stuck in a loop you never, ever could have predicted.
Okay, let's put them head to head. Workflows, they're deterministic, you define all the steps, you can audit everything, and when they fail, it's predictable. Yeah, they're kind of boring, and honestly, that's their superpower in the business world. Agents, on the other hand, are autonomous. They figure out their own steps, they adapt, but their failures are completely unpredictable. They can hallucinate, they can get stuck, and as we've already seen, they can just straight up ignore you.
So this is what a workflow with AI looks like in practice. It's basically a straight line. See? User input comes in, maybe an LLM helps generate a response, but then it follows a path. Action A, then action B, that you laid out ahead of time. It has no choice in the matter. It just follows the script.
Now, contrast that with a real agent. See the big difference? It's the loop. The agent gets some input, decides what to do, does it, and then it looks at the result. It evaluates what happened. And based on that new information, it decides its next move. It's this constant cycle of think, act, learn, repeat, until it either reaches its goal or, disaster strikes.
So, when you see the risks of true agents laid out like that, it becomes pretty clear, right? For most businesses, most of the time, the boring path, the workflow, is the winning path. Reliability and predictability, those aren't bugs, they're essential features.
And here's exactly why that's true. With a workflow, you can trace every single decision back to its source. You can write unit tests for every little piece of it. When it fails, you know exactly where and why. And believe me, your security and compliance people will absolutely love you when you can hand them a neat flowchart instead of just shrugging and saying, the AI just figures it out on its own.
So here's the real secret sauce. The winning play here isn't workflows or agents. It's not a binary choice. The best strategy is a hybrid approach. You take the super reliable, predictable structure of a workflow and you embed smart AI components inside it.
Think about something like document processing. It's a perfect example. The overall process is a classic workflow. You ingest a file, you route it somewhere, you validate it. Totally deterministic. But you can plug in an LLM at specific points, use it to classify what kind of document it is, or to extract the key data points. See what's happening? You get all the power of AI, but it's contained within a safe, predictable structure.
Okay, enough theory. Let's make this super practical. This is the Founder's Framework. It's what you can use to spot the difference when you're out in the wild, and more importantly, decide what your project actually needs.
This table really breaks it all down. Basically, if you need to be able to audit everything, if you need compliance, if failure has to be predictable, especially if you're touching sensitive or destructive data, you'll want a workflow. Full stop. You should only even consider an agent if your problem is genuinely open-ended, like for a research tool, and you can truly afford for it to fail gracefully, or not so gracefully.
So, next time someone comes to you pitching their amazing new agentic system, here's question number 1 to ask yourself. Can you draw the decision tree? If the answer is yes, if you can map out the logic from start to finish, congratulations, it's a workflow. And that's not a bad thing. It's a great thing. Just call it what it is. Question number 2 cuts right to the risk. What happens when it fails? And if the answer you get is something vague like, oh, the AI is smart, it'll figure something out, that is a giant, flashing red flag. Real, robust systems have clearly defined failure modes and recovery plans.
And finally, question number 3. This one comes directly from that Replit horror story we started with. What's your rollback story? Could this system, in any scenario, delete your production database or do some other catastrophic damage? If the answer is even a tiny, remote maybe, and you don't have an ironclad, tested rollback plan, you don't want an agent. You need a workflow.
And that really brings us to the main takeaway here. The companies that are actually winning with AI right now, they're not always the ones building the flashiest, most sci-fi autonomous agents. No, they're the ones who are being smart. They're taking boring, reliable technology and applying this new AI magic in a smart, targeted way, just like it's always been. And that, it turns out, is how you build products that actually work.